information. I'm going to cover as much as I can get done this morning of the Diddy documentary that was on Netflix. I think it came out about a week ago, but I just finished watching it. Before we get to that, you know the drill, you know the deal. We gotta do some channel maintenance, channel hygiene, channels are done. We got you. So if you're new here, welcome to my nonsense. If you're old here, welcome back. Oh geez, if you're new here, please consider hitting subscribe. And if you're old here, go to check, make sure you're subscribed, hit the like if you like, leave a comment. It could be anything related to the video. It could just be a hello, a few emojis, whatever, as long as it's cool and respectful. Hit the notification bell. As always, I feel like my tip jar is down yonder in the description box. No pressure whatsoever, but every $1 or $2 helps. That just allows me to continue to make content. Also, you are invited to my Patreon. I know not everybody can come, but you can say you are invited. The link to my Patreon is down below, and I post a lot over there. If you want extra content, but you don't want to leave this platform, you can join YouTube memberships by clicking join below, or going to my channel page and clicking the join button. That is content that is exclusive to YouTube members. Okay, I'm gonna be reading pretty fast, so you can choose to log in, or you can choose to log out and pass it. It's up to you. Opens up with Diddy talking to his lawyers, basically telling him that he's innocent and they need to find a solution. Diddy had hired a videographer to follow him around, and you're actually seeing that footage, so it's really confusing of how you're seeing this footage, you know. There's a little clip of a juror says she came on to the show to let the people know how they reached the verdict. Opening statements from people that have worked with him, so you get like little clips of, you know, people that have worked with him, just little one-sentence clips. Kirk Burroughs is the co-founder of Bad Boys. He says Diddy got on the scene mostly as a dancer. He had convinced some moguls to give him an internship. Moguls, as in L.B. Shore, is one of them. L.B. Shore was dating Kim Porter at this time. Sean saw Kim Porter and kept putting pressure on her, and he was flirting with her at work, knowing that, you know, L.B. Shore is the one that's giving him these opportunities, so that's weird. Kirk says that he went through the Uptown Flavor Camp, kissed all the right asses, and made himself invaluable. Enter Tim Patterson, a childhood friend. He lived below Sean in the same apartment/house. After Sean's dad passed, his mom started making Sean her little man, dressing him like a little adult, you know. Says they constantly watched black exploitation movies on the TV, which they're like a 70s genre of, I think it says there was lots of big furs and hustling, pimps, etc. And that Sean got beatings that even scared his neighbor that's talking. He's like, I was somebody that got beat too, but Sean's beatings scared me. So then Sean starts fighting other people, but he says he doesn't fight clean. He likes to bite. Diddy is a biter. He's a biter, not a fighter. Okay, on comes the woman that promoted parties, and she ended up being in a music video with him, and then gets calls that there's video of him doing stuff to her. So, yeah, she just promoted for parties. He ends up getting her to do a music video, and then a couple of weeks or months later, she's starting to hear at these parties and stuff like, do you know there's video going around of Sean doing stuff to you? Her mom wrote a letter to Mr. and Mrs. Combs, but there was no Mr. at the time, but the mom wrote a letter to inform them of what their son was up to. She was having basically PTSD. She was having nightmares, screaming in the middle of the night about the experience. And apparently he had been showing these videos at parties. When she talked to people for direction, they would say that if they helped her, then they wouldn't be able to go to the parties. Womp, womp. She said she avoided him and they ran into each other later. He got on his knees and swore he did no such thing. She felt hopeless. So I did hear about these things, and people were like, on social media, didn't y'all think this was weird? We did. We thought a lot of this was weird, but we really couldn't. There wasn't a lot of options for us to do other research or to even talk to each other about it other than in your own personal circle. There wasn't things we could like post clips like, okay, what do you think about this or this? Like we can now, you know. Anyway, the Harlem basketball event had limited room, but Sean over promoted. You know, when you're thinking about promoting, you have to take all these things into consideration, and he didn't. And then the tickets were really low priced. They were $12, which is not necessarily a good thing when you have limited space. And why are you selling tickets for more space than you have? Anyway, people rushed in. People got crushed, and there was a lot of argument about who was at fault. People literally died from being crushed at this event. Janice, his mom, questioned him if he made the right career decision after this, and he apparently put hands on her, according to a witness, and he called her a bitch. Puff's new responsibility was the boy group Jodeci. He styled them and packaged them. Then Mary J. Blige gets with me. Oh, then he gets with Misa. Misa was also somebody. I don't remember who. Misa was somebody's girlfriend at the time too. Like he has a thing with going after girls that are in relationships. Or I think she was recently somebody's ex. You know, like he likes the drama of that. Anyway, he beats Misa in public. 1 year later, they have a kid. Kirk is the godfather of this kid. This kid is named Justin. Eventually, there's tension at Uptown. Andre fired him, and he's acting like, okay, I'm fired, but I'm bigger than Uptown anyways. So Puff goes out on his own. The caveat to being fired was that he did get to take Biggie with him. He meets Clive Davis. He played Biggie's music, and Clive was like, I'm in. And then came the new label Bad Boys, including Kirk and Janice. Kirk said that's when he saw a total personality shift in Puff. Kirk handled all the money and all the budgets. Kirk called him a paper gangster because he was hard industry-wise, but not very street-wise. Starting to think he was super gangster, but not actually doing anything on the streets himself. He was starting to like hire people to do all his dirt. Biggie had a slow start, so Puff started studying Tupac. Then came Big Papa, and that took Biggie up fast. Pac gets a call about Biggie's release party, and Pac was genuinely excited. This is before all the drama. But Pac was really excited for Biggie, and Pac would take Big on tours and let Biggie open. Kirk says, how in my mature mind, I think Puff had a lot to do with the killing of Tupac. Episode 2. Pac did not want to work with Puff, and that made Puff feel threatened. Tupac gets shot and robbed while walking into the studio where Biggie was. Biggie had just told him, come on up. Tupac footage shows him saying that he thinks Puff was responsible for that shooting because he survived that shooting. Even at the peak of his charges, he's not even thinking, where did I go wrong? So this goes back to current, and he's not thinking about, what did I do? He's thinking how to get out of trouble. Bad Boys back to Bad Boys is blowing up. Biggie, Craig Mack, Faith Evans, Puff has a lot of money and power and fame, and decides he doesn't have to play by any rules. He went into Kirk's office and said he's going to buy him out. Like, this is his OG, right? He's like, I'm gonna buy you out. He's not asking. And he's not even offering the money. He's like, basically like, get out. He's holding a bet. Craig Mack won a Grammy, but somehow was still broke, and that's because Puff was confusing all the earnings and inserted himself into all the videos so he could pay himself. That's why his little shimmy is in all the videos. So he could pay himself for the videos. Clearly jealous of real talent, Puff has zero musical talent. Suge Knight, originally head of security, moved up to Death Row Records. Before Bad Boy, Death Row was the big label. Puff claims they used to be friends. Death Row actually took care of their artists, and they had been courting Craig Mack. all your videos, come over to Death Row. If you don't know who Suge Knight is, look him up. This dude is massive, okay? So, like, when you watch him say that, you're like, Death Row, but wait, Puff played it cool, and he was like, I'm so proud of Death Row after that, but you know that it started something in his head. He was salty, deep down. Every Friday, there were bad boy parties Suge would attend. Kirk said Puff asked him to pull $50K out to get Suge's mistress, his side piece, a necklace. So here comes Puff now, trying to get Suge's girlfriend, side piece, whatever. The man comes out and shoots Suge's friend, and Suge grabs Puff as a shield. The shooter ran. Suge's friend Jake died, and thus the East Coast West Coast War. That's how it all originally started. I mean, I'm sure Suge saying that at the awards was the spark, and then this is like when it kicked off. Tupac gets locked up for SA charges. Bad Boy and Pac are enemies. So Biggie and Pac are nemesis. Since Suge hated Puff, he visited Pac in jail. Suge signs Pac to his label, because Pac was on an independent, or a small, not an independent, but like a smaller label at the time. So now Pac is Death Row. The Biggie clip shows him saying he just wanted to shut up about it. He's like, I didn't want any of that. I didn't want the smoke, basically. Pac did. Pac was saying all kinds of shit. Pac makes a call about getting with Faith, and then Biggie gets pissed because Faith was like pregnant with Biggie's kid at the time, and Tupac calls and was like, I hooked up with Faith. Okay, then we have the Bloods and the Crip violence. It peaks, and there are rumors that Bad Boy had Crips as security. But they weren't rumors. He really did. He asked Zip, a guy named Zip, to hook him up. A Crip ends up pulling someone at Death Row. He pulls their chain off at the mall. Okay, then enter the Tyson fight night. The guy who had his chain ripped off tells Pac and Suge, there goes the guy that got, wait, no. Yeah, the guy that had his chain ripped off. He looks at Pac and Suge, and he's like, that's the guy that got my chain. There he goes, right there. The fella's name is Orlando, I believe. So they leave. Then there's reports of shots, and Tupac's down. After that, Craig Mack was scared and decides not to go to Death Row, because literally that's when it all happened. That's the night that Pac died. They interview as Puffs, do you know who killed Tupac? And Puff's like, no. Nobody cooperated. Suge refuses to snitch. Tupac had beaten Orlando after the fight and asked Orlando's uncle Keefe to talk. So detectives ask Keefe to talk. That's Orlando's uncle. There's incriminating evidence. Oh, tell him, like, whatever evidence won't be used against you. You gotta be careful with that, because, like, it doesn't necessarily mean you're not going to jail. I don't know how that works, but he claims that a full year prior to Tupac's death, he had many conversations with Puff. Zip had set Puff up with Keefe. Sean makes an announcement with the guys and some other gang members. I'll give anything for their heads. And like, these are testimonies, so I don't know why there's no charges for this now. Now that these recordings are available, like, what's going on? Why? Repeats he wants again, and another gathering. So he's being like he's kind of pressuring now, and he's being specific. Keefe says, okay, I'll do it for $1 million. So after the Orlando and Tupac fight, they decide it's the perfect opportunity. They kill Pac and start smoking and drinking right at the scene. They're just right there smoking and drinking. They didn't leave the scene. They're kicking it. The next day, Zip has them meet at a deli in LA and hands Keefe the phone. Puff was happy and excited and grateful. Puff never compensated him. Okay? Because Tupac was the only one dead and not Suge. He's like, you didn't fulfill the job. So sent $500K, half the deal, to Zip, and Zip kept it. Zip ends up dying of cancer. Orlando was shot and killed after that. I think it's just unrelated. So it's down to Keefy and Puff on the hook for Tupac's murder. Kirk says they knew not to go to LA, but Sean talked Biggie into going. They received nothing with but booze at the awards ceremony. That's embarrassing. They were about to head to the airport to leave. Kirk calls Biggie. Let's get out of here. Biggie says Puff said we can't go, and he canceled their flight. Like, Biggie's kind of scared, right? They end up going to the event that night. As they leave, shots are fired, and Biggie shot. Puff's story is that Biggie wanted to stay and hang out and kick it, and that's not the truth. Detectives questioned Biggie's mom, Valletta, and he says it was clear that she had no respect for Puff. Sean organizes the biggest funeral New York has ever seen, but that it was coming out of Biggie's money, so he's like, let's do it big on Biggie's money, right? Biggie was about to be on the